And yeah, my wife at the time, she passed away. But when we met, it was very interesting because she was not a fan of my work. She wasn't starstruck. She liked me as a person, but I think she liked me because I didn't always go to Hollywood. We would just go and do things like go to the beach and to the park. So that helped me realize, she helped me realize, I don't have to be on all the time. I could just relax and not be Turbo or not be, Mr. Breakdancer. I could just be Mike, And so we were really, really, really close. And, unfortunately, things happened. We ended up getting a divorce and she went on. But yeah, she passed away. The good thing is the memory of how we met. It's like I met her and we got married in 1989. That's really not a long time to be a player. I went from doing the movie 84 and 85 to Dom DeLuise show to traveling to getting married in 89. So it's kind of like right when I became like a man, like in my 20s.
And did any kids happen at that time? How did it...
We had a child, and not right when we got married. We waited. We wanted to get everything all set up, and we had a child. And unfortunately, he became the product of a divorce. When we tried to do the family thing, and unfortunately, she was murdered. She passed away in a homicide, and our families just kind of just got all screwed up. Her side and my side didn't get along. Everybody, all these unanswered things, these questions, the distance, and then for me, when I finally was able to talk to my son, I noticed a very different person. He started feeling a very sharp resentment against me because he felt like, okay, well, you know what? You abandoned me. I mean, you abandoned me because you broke up with my mom. Why weren't you there for her? And unfortunately, when things happen, especially a homicide or something like that, the thing is, there's a lot of unanswered things. But when there's a death or somebody's grieving, it's easy to cast blame or it's easy to point fingers. So you know what? We're going through that. We're trying to, at least I'm trying. I've been trying to get past that and bridge the gap with him. But he's a little bit more stuck on why. Why did this happen? You weren't there. She's gone. I was hurt. So I'm waiting for him to grow to a point of acceptance and just move forward. But yeah. Unfortunately, that's something that a lot of people didn't know that happened. But our lives changed. She was murdered in 2003. That was a very, very, very hard time for all of our families. Just anytime a family unravels under a tragedy, it's not good. It's not good at all. So, you know what? Now, going into 2017 and the next few years, I'm hoping that my focal point, I can only do so much. And what keeps me together is doing good for people, doing the best work that I can, and not really wallowing in sorrow or tragedy, but turning that negativity into positivity. So I do my work and I do what I can for other people, because I learned a lot. You gotta love people while they're here. So you're not promised tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? And I also believe in the merit system. Judge a person by their character, not by what's on paper. And that goes back a long way. So hopefully the kind of man that I have been and that I'm still becoming, those things will resonate to family and friends. Consistency is everything.
Okay, so I want you to kind of clarify a little bit to say, you guys were together, you guys split up, and then the murder happened.
No.
We did kind of do that, but I want to kind of go into that, and then go into, then after that relationship, after my healing, and then talk about your next relationship.
Yeah. Okay. What happened was, we were young, no kids, but we had good jobs, and the whole material and vanity thing came into play, where we went from a small apartment and we bit off more than what we could chew by getting a house. and then out of our jurisdiction from our families. So we bought a house out of our jurisdiction, and now the bills were piling up, and then we decided to have a child. So now we had a new child and the babysitting, and so she decided at the time to go. Her job was in Los Angeles, and we lived up north. We lived in Kern County. She decided to go and move in with her mom because the mom spoiled her with out. It was a new grandbaby. Out baby said, you could stay here, you could rest because you live down in LA, and then when you get ready, you can go back home. But in the meantime, I've got a new family that's not there. I'm sitting in an empty house going, wow, I'm in a place all by myself. Kind of like felt like 5-0. It's kind of sad, but the thing is, we tried, but we felt, I mean, there's just no way a new marriage with a new child. Well, I'm not speaking for anybody else because I don't really care about people's opinion. It is what happened to us. We were away from our mothers and our families, and our financial thing was over exceeding our lifestyle. So we bit off more than what we could chew. So we had to sell the house, move back in with our parents. Now the shame and the status thing, oh, I'm married, you're back with your mom. Oh, I thought you were married. Oh, and you got a kid. Now all that came to play. And our relationship just went like this. It just started going distant. She found somebody new. She moved in with them. They ended up getting married. They had kids. We divorced. They went on, thought everything was cool. Next thing I know, I get a phone call. And this was, you got to remember, we divorced in the 90s. We divorced like 93, 94. She got murdered in 2003. So we were already done, but I was still interacting with my child. We got the call 2003 in the summer of July that she got murdered. And that just like threw a whole wrench in the whole keeping, you know, whatever ties that I have with the family was out the door. Because now they had an unsolved murder. Now everybody was grieving her, and I'm an estranged husband, and they don't know who's who. So now I'm even more kicked to the curb. So we're all guessing like, wow, you know, when is this going to be over? What happened to our family? It was just not bad. It was not a good situation. Not a good. Even after her murder was solved, still wasn't good because we had all those unexplained years, all those years of not knowing and then not even associating. So then when I got a chance to talk to my son, he was real bitter. And Lord knows who poisoned his mind or what he kind of thought. You know, most dads are superheroes, or most dads and parents, you know, they're supposed to come and save the day. That's a fantasy. And when stuff like that happens, some kids can kind of punish you. And I've been punished. You know, unfortunately, that was brought up to me. He made sure to let me know that, you know, how he felt about me not being there and what he was subjected to and how, you know, his life had been since, you know. And so, yeah, I'm hoping that through my work and through whatever I can do on my own, that my image is just like everybody else knows me for Dan. Everything that I do as a man will get back to him so he can kind of know me from a distance. That's the only thing I could do. You know what I'm saying? You can, I mean, he's a grown adult. I'm somebody who's traumatized, so hopefully the kind of person that I am will get around to him. You know, because I remember when I hated people and when I had a grudge against people, and through the grapevine I heard good things about that person, and it made me look at them different because now I made a wrong assessment about the person. We all go through that, you know. So I'm hoping that will turn around for him because we're all getting older, you know.
Okay, let's talk about, so you get done with that relationship and you're hanging in there. What happened after that? Were you kind of up and down relationship?
Yeah, no, well, you know what? Because that was like my first bona fide relationship, okay? Assets, the whole family institution, trying to be a dad, thought it was like what we were brought up, the white picket fence. So my next relationship, I feel that I was kind of lonely. And just kind of like in a cloud, in a funk. And the thing is, I had no idea that this person had been subjected through domestic violence and a lot of bad stuff in their relationship. until the arguments, until the things started happening. And then now it was like, okay, you know what? Now I'm in a relationship with somebody that has to try to solve or make their point through violence. And I was like, oh man. For me, I was never brought up with that. I mean, my mom and dad argued, and he may have punched a wall or broke something, but he never hurt or touched her. But now I was in a situation where this person, justify, oh, I'm good, I have to do it because you provoked it. So now it was a whole mental thing of having to defend myself and having to care about somebody that was hurting me, and my whole thing was I stayed in that relationship as long as I could. Then I had to get out because you know what? I couldn't change somebody. Meaning that person was unchangeable. She was stuck in her ways, and it was like, okay, you know what? Hey, I'm gonna be me, and don't provoke me, and you won't get it. So I was like, okay, all right. So now I was like, all right, what? Now I got to be a Stepford guy. So then, you know what? I'm not that good of an actor. I was too hard of a role to play. So you know what? I had to get out of Dodge. And it was better for both of us because when you're in a toxic situation that's not working, somebody has to leave before it gets really, really bad. And the thing is, once I got out of that relationship, I got back to me because I felt like I was living in the shadows of somebody else, but a person that really didn't care too much about me, but cared about me being an observer and a reassurance to her. You can't reassure somebody all the time if they're not okay with themselves. So now I realized, okay, wait a minute. I got to be me again. When I got rid of that relationship, I came back to myself. And what makes Michael is my giving to people as an artist. A performer gives, but yet it's reciprocated. When we perform, the applause and the accolades and somebody saying, hey, you know what? You really made me laugh and made me feel good because I wasn't feeling good. Thank you for that show. There's more than a dollar amount that happens with me when I can hear that from somebody, how I affected their lives. I'm still addicted to it. I mean, I love bringing joy. I love having it reciprocated. And for a long time, those wounds were like right there. I was trying to figure out how can I navigate and get back to my career. And sure enough, they always say, if your household's in order, your life is in order. So the thing is, I got out of that bad toxic relationship, cleaned up my mental wounds with being hurt, repaired my heart, and just said, boom, got back into my work. So that's where I'm now, just trying to do good for people. I think one thing that I learned through all that, whatever doesn't kill you does make you stronger. And I see it when I do motivational speaking or when I go out and talk to people who think that they're under adversity. Sometimes people can't see tomorrow, but whatever I share with them can help them through today. So I'm on that plane now. In between my jobs or whatever, I like to get into scenarios where I could share with people my struggles and then my accomplishments, so that they maybe can spark something of hope in them that maybe if today's bad, tomorrow's gonna be better. I really like that tone, So yeah. I don't regret what has happened to me because it's made me better. It's made me more aware of life. You can't take it for granted, but you can't stay stagnant. If there's something in your way, move it out of the way, go around it. If an obstacle's in the way, move around. And if you can't move, get some people to move it for you. That's why you have movers. It's very true.
That's awesome. Check this one time. I want to talk about now because you have your new relationship, right? That you have her. Is that kind of the next step you think in relationships?
You know what?
Or do you want to...
I want to get off the relationship thing because those... Well, you know what? No. I'll tell you right now. I met a very wonderful person who has a lot in common with me. But she said, you know what? She said these two things. Even if you have a cardboard box, I'd still be with you because you're the kind of man that I've always wanted. Somebody that's just real. And her next thing was, I want to sit back and I'll support you mentally and be your cheering section, but let you go out and do your journey and fulfill what you were born to do. When she said those things and she's showing those things, she understands me as an artist, but understands me as a man. So it's a very helpful thing to have a personal friend that is not weighing you down, but allowing you to be the best you. Don't get me wrong. One thing about my new one is she allows me certain liberties, but will put her foot down and say, look, I don't really think this is good for you. Take it with a grain of salt, but that's just my opinion. 9 times out of 10, if I'm smart, her opinion really helps me from myself. Because you know what? It's just like kids in a candy store. You can get into a lot of stuff, but maybe that's not healthy for you. Or maybe this is not good for you. So that's what a friend does. They spare you from yourself. So she, you know what? She gives me that gauge, and she really has been a wonderful, I would say, spiritual support. Because you know what? The show is there, but you got to have a good headspace before you can even do anything. Some people, they don't have it together because they're lost. They're not grounded. She keeps me grounded.
Good stuff. Cool. That covers that at least. What advice would you give your son if he decides to get in the entertainment business?
If he decided to get into the entertainment business, I would give him advice to have a stable job and a stable trade or career, something solid to pay his bills and put food in his mouth until he was able to develop a talent that showed a consistency of monetary gain. Meaning, if he decided to be a singer, actor, or whatever, well, you could think it, but if you're not paying your bills off that profession, then it's just a pipe dream. But if you go out to school and get a trade where you can actually get paid for hire and pay your rent and live off your labor, then that's more tangible. I would want him to get something that is sure that he can bank on to pay his rent, pay his bills, and then develop his talent on his spare time until it actually keeps going. And then if his talent does keep going, to try to find a way to continue to have his own business, his own way of money, because it's not sure. You never know where your next job is going to be. That's why you call yourself struggling artists. Struggling artists came from artists not knowing where their next job is. But the new artists are taking an empowerment and having a little cushion from their brand or something on the side that they're selling to pay their rent while they're being an artist.
What would you consider the most important events in the 1980s?
The most important event globally or pertaining to dance?
Pertaining to dance in your career.
I think the most important event was the Olympics, 1984 Olympics. One of the most important events was that Lionel Richie featured breakdancing. When the Olympics featured breakdancing, now it wasn't just like disco. It was like, oh shoot, this is something serious. As a matter of fact, I just heard breakdancing is going to be introduced in the 2017 games as an actual sport in like Buenos Aires or somewhere. It's very true. You can look it up. So for me, I'm glad to be a part of things that were taken serious. 1980, Michael Jackson came out with the moonwalk. We worked together. He introduced a whole style of art form, popping and all. That was like the moonwalk was a menu to this whole dance of urban hip hop culture, and he was a vehicle. The Olympics put breakdancing as something tangible in the world because it was featured. I would say, my films came out, which laid the foundation of dancers being actors. And then later on, John Shue with the Step It Up movies made actors be dancers. So, you can see the theme. All these dance movies has actors and dancers that can do both. There's a lot that goes back to the 80s. yeah, there was like a renaissance of my contribution, as well as a few of my brothers in the arts, to the world. I mean, New York and the breakdancers, Rocksteady, the New York City Breakers, the hip hop elements, graffiti, scratching, emceeing, rapping, the whole culture kind of got like a really good boost into the world when the 80s happened. We had Beat Street, which shows New York, and the fashion and the gazelles, and now people's hats were, and the swagger came, and then you had, LA and the real hard. I mean, actually, they really weren't hard in LA. You had before the 90s hip hop, you had Egyptian Lover, who had the electronic 808 beats. You had just a lot of people just dancing. Bobby Brown, Kid and Play, Salt and Pepper, fun music. The 80s was a very, very good time, and I'm glad that now the new casting people and directors, people are kind of going back to seeing and picking certain elements of retro of the 80s, because there were a lot of wonderful things that came. Multicultural, good music, fashion, especially the fashion. I love the fashion. Those really cool leather jackets with the beaded zippers, and the metal, and the spiked bracelets, and the hats, in those real loud colors or cross colors. Yeah, love the 80s.
Yeah. What are some of the hardest choices you had to make in the business? What are some of the turning points?
I think the hardest choice I had to make after breaking in Electric Boogaloo, not just accepting a job just to do it, and going out like somebody who was just, okay, he's a sellout. There were jobs that I turned down because I didn't believe in them, or they questioned my faith-based ethics. I mean, whatever values, whenever I was brought up with, that were mine, it's like I had ethics. I had certain things. I wasn't just going to sell myself for the almighty dollar. There were certain things that I just backed away from. And, it's hard, when you're trying to pay your bills and trying to pay your rent, to actually forfeit a job. It's almost like that. The Price is Right. Door number one, door number two. But at the end of the day, guess what? I still was me. There were certain things. If you look at my films, Breaking and Electric Boogaloo, there was no cursing in it. There was no sex. Call it corny, but it just focused on just the art. Years later, people made it seem like, oh, if you're inner city, you got to make it rain. Oh, you got to be with the ladies. You got to bust out with your Cadillac and your Benz and your Rams. Bust out some wine. And that's all cool if that was how you were living. But I look at Will Smith. Will Smith, he came out, and a lot of people he's just corny. But Will Smith is kind of like an icon now. So corny is not bad. So you know what? When it comes to the African American experience in the umbrella of hip hop, there's a lot of hip hop characters. And it's just like heavy metal or rock and roll. You can go to Marilyn Manson, or you can go to the Eagles, or you can go to Metallica, or you can go to all these other artists under the umbrella of these rock and roll things. Well, with hip hop, you can get really the dirty South, or you can get the clean. It's to each his own to decipher. Well, I got caught up in that because what Turbo and Ozone stood for was just good, clean fun, and call it square, but it was very true. So for me, those were decisions I had to make later because we weren't fake. I was me. So I said, okay, I'm going to pick jobs that, first of all, if my mom or my family members go see, they're not going to be ashamed to walk out of the theater. Ooh, what is he doing? Everything that I've done so far that's on screen I was very conscious of, and I was at least not acting like I'm a saint, but at least I was trying to put my honest foot forward and stay consistent to my beliefs of what I stood for, and also respect my fan base and my family.
How would you describe your sense of humor?
I think that My sense of humor is funny. How would I describe my sense of humor? I would describe it by a brother who analyzes things, meaning I take scenarios and I analyze them. It could be a situation or it could be a conversation. And then if I marinate it on, a joke will come out of it. Just because I think in my household, my mother, she was very witty, very quick. My dad, very quick. I think I learned very quickly if there's a certain serious subject or to break the ice so people just kind of relax, throw in a joke, lighten up. I think I got into that rhythm. So, there's a time and place for everything. There's a time to be serious, a time to joke, and a time to make people feel at ease. So I kind of got into that so that people wouldn't feel threatened by me. Like, where's this guy coming from? I don't really trust people that are in the room more than an hour and they don't say that much. I'm like, yeah or no. And it's already 45 minutes. You just say yes or no. Maybe. Now I got maybe. Now it's 3 words. I kind of feel more comfortable when people laugh and and that's just human nature. So just with comedy, it makes me feel good. And if I feel good, you're definitely going to feel good. There's a certain energy. And I feel like we all are energy people. If you have negative energy and I have positive energy, I got to go because you're draining me. But if you have positive energy and I have positive energy, it positively feels good. I like it. So the thing is, I'm an energy person. So with comedy, I think I would describe it as my buffer and my way of just feeling relaxed and letting people feel at ease. And then, you know what? Us just uniting through a kind joke.
Cool. That was a great piece because that'll help tie into like that you're looking into do.
It came from
stuff.
the heart.
And then that way, it's not like trying to be funny. It's like
it's really me.
What's the art form behind your comedy? So anyway,
no. But I mean, you know what? I'm glad this wasn't rehearsed.
Yeah. Because
it's not robotic. It's coming from me, Taylor. So the thing is, you're getting some juicy stuff. Okay. It's very true.
What was your favorite place you ever visited, and what was it like?
Alaska. I've been around the world. I've been to Israel. You name it. Alaska has to be one of my favorite places because there was no loud music. There were no freeways, traffic. It was just God. That was like when I felt like I really been someplace that only God could have created. We did a show, but everybody else went to the clubs and the pubs. But I got a chance to just go out, smell the crisp air. I could do a 360-degree turn and just see snow-capped mountains, free eagles. Somebody's gonna go. Cut. Hi.
1 second, let me start over.
Oh, okay. I was going to ask you if I could. I don't know if the restroom's available before they get going.
Let me stop this for you.
Yeah. Before they get going.
Yeah.
Now you got 2.
Right there. Boom, boom, boom. Where you are next to your career. Sorry. Just a little technical shit. That will save you a lot of time.
There are 2 other places that I wanted to mention.
Okay, yeah, let's go into that. Where'd you go next or after Alaska? You tied it.
Japan. When I first went to Japan, you got to remember something. My dance style was based on special effects. So I grew up in the 70s watching the Bionic Man, Bionic Woman, Steve Austin, Giant Robot, all that wonderful stuff, Star Wars, Godzilla, Ultraman. So when I got to the land of the rising sun, that's where most of that stuff came from. So I was just like, it reminded me of the scene from the movie Blade Runner. If you watch the movie Blade Runner with Harrison Ford, it was like a Ming city. It's like all these neon lights and spacey things, and they have a lot of animatronics in the city. You could drive down in Tokyo, and there's a lot of stuff moving because it's a very robotic society. So I was just like, I'm home. I do the robot, but this is a Atlanta robot. So it made my robot better. I became a robot. So the thing is, Japan was fascinating to me. I just remember when we had the cable, before cable TV, we had the antenna, the UHF, and we would get like some bootleg stuff from whatever was in the information highway, and we would see those Japanese films where you'd have Ultraman or robotic things, and to be there, it really made me feel like, okay, you know what? I'm an ambassador of my race because I'm like the only African American around here, and everybody's looking at me like, okay, well, what kind of tourist are you? So Japanese people, they're very analytical. They study, and they're not very animated like we are. They're just kind of like very orderly, and they don't even raise their voice unless it's a business deal. What did you do? So the thing is, they're very soft-spoken, and they're very peaceful people. So it was a culture shock, but I adapted a lot of their ways because I had been working in Japan for many years, off and on. I didn't stay there for years, but off and on I would get called back for gigs. And just to see every time I would come back to Japan, the response I would get, that's the first time I ever felt like a real celebrity. I mean, over here, we're used to seeing celebrities. In LA, we kind of got our own thing, unless you're Lady Gaga or something, or somebody like Justin Bieber, where they're like, wow, a big concert. But over there, they don't get us. So I was got really used to that whole, wow, it's turbo, it's and so that was the one country that I really felt like I've really arrived in the business, where they actually treated me like a really serious VIP person. Another place is Hawaii. I love Hawaii. Because for me, I grew up in the South Bay. The water's a lot warmer than over here. I just seem like when you're not working, that's like the place to kick back, because everybody kind of dances and they're like, hang loose, bada, bada, bada. It's like Hawaiian people are really just festive and very fun. And then, of course, it's the closest thing to paradise. It's like everything I ever dreamed about paradise being. Fantasy Island, Mr. O'Rourke, looking for a tattoo. When I go to Hawaii, when I do get a chance to get there, it's just like, it's like a fantasy world, So those are my 3 places.
Cool. And what I'm going to do next, too, is I'm going to go through some of the clips and then remind you of stuff for the next session. That way it'll bring stuff.
Oh, the next one?
Yeah, the next session.
No, I'm glad that you made it.
There was something in France I saw on TV.
I'm glad that you made that, because what will give me a heads up, show me the clips, and then I'll let you know, because I have to see what you're saying. Because right now you're saying, remember the thing in France. There's so much stuff.
I'll give you details.
Who's this?
Hey! Can you bring your guys out?
Who's that?
No.
That's big.
Yeah, I can tell why. He's big. He runs the house. He's your drive-by guy. Hey, what's up? That's crazy. You got a ghetto dog. He's like, get out of my house, fool. What you want? That's cool. He rushed me.
Okay. Let's go after Michael. Then you went you got the other job from there. What happened after that job? What led to, you went from Lionel Richie to
Dom DeLuise.
Yeah.
Wait. Lionel Richie, Michael Jackson, my films, and then music videos, and then teaching.
Yes, let's talk about some of the music videos that are coming.
So this is interesting. Okay, this is interesting. Just before the movie Breaking, I did Lionel Richie's video all night long. Then music videos had just started, so MTV was having auditions, and I got first dibs on the cool people. I did Lionel Richie's all night long video. This was before we went on tour. Then I was featured in the Gap Band's Party Train video. Then I did Shaka Khan's I Feel For You. Then I did Stacey Q's I'm Gonna Give You All My Love. That's like a far stretch from those artists, because Stacey Q's like, two of hearts. She's like a new wave kind of retro person. Then, believe it or not, I got the coolest job. Richard Marx was big in the 80s. I played like this homeless drug dealer in a Richard Marx video. The video is called Children of the Night. And I'm in this one scene where we're doing this transaction. The setup was I was doing a transaction. I'm a homeless guy, but I'm a little petty dealer. So I'm doing this transaction underneath the bridge, in downtown LA. So I was doing these little vignettes and music videos. And then, let's see, right after, then the movies came, then Breaking. Then I got a really, really cool job on the Dom DeLuise show. And I also played MC Mike on the kids' game show, The Funhouse. J.D. Roth had The Funhouse, right? They're looking for a new host. So I was like, that's a nice day job. It was Fox TV. So I was on a Saturday morning show, the Funhouse. Let me see. God, man, you know what? I wish I had my resume in front of me.
We're going to do it. That's the next one.
Because I do have my resume.
Refresh you on stuff, and then that way you'll be like, we can go in a little, and kind of go through a time frame.
But those videos are actually on YouTube.
Yeah, I know. I got a lot of them.
That's sick, huh? I was sending you everything in the kitchen sink. Did you see the stuff I was sending you? Yeah. That was sick, huh?
Yeah, I got to show you all the stuff. Okay, what is the single most memorable moment of your life? Do you have anything else?
Working with Michael Jackson. Working with Michael Jackson, I think at the time, because I was doing so much, and I was never really. Once I met a celebrity, now you became my buddy. So I was not like jockeying the celebrity. Oh man, it was like once we got the whole celebrity thing, and he made me feel just as equal as him, because I'm like, wait a minute, evidently I must be something. I'm in your house. I'm over here with your mom and everybody. That's kind of cool, right? So that was like a more personal than just a day player. So once I realized, okay, now this is like my guy, and then I realized how famous he was. Now, I felt like a soldier that had just did like a tour in the military, and he got his stripes. I was like, you know what? Well, I did Breaking, but guess what? I'm the guy that's teaching like the biggest guy on the planet. So I had my medallion of my ego, like my swagger. You didn't have to tell me anything, because I knew what I knew. I knew who I was talking with and who I was teaching. So to look back at that after he passed away, now those memories are very more golden, because I didn't videotape and I didn't take pictures because they didn't allow you, but also I didn't want to, because people could sneak cameras and I wasn't that kind of person that was like would take away stuff. But to see how he allowed me, I spent the weekend with my wife at the time, my son's mother. We spent the weekend at Neverland. That's the whole weekend. That's a long time to be with Michael Jackson, meaning not with him every day, but just to be on his compound. So the thing is, we got there on a Friday, and we left on a Sunday. But in that time that we were there, just the time that I spent with him and the things that I seen, that these experiences were golden, dude. The only thing that I could remember is when Michael Jackson allowed Martin Bashir, when they did the documentary where he allowed people on Neverland and they actually filmed. That's all the stuff that I seen, but I didn't have the footage. But see, they actually showed the footage of everywhere I was. His movie theater, his rehearsal hall, his zoo. And there was other things that I seen that they don't have. But like I said, when I go back, it was really interesting because it wasn't just about the dance with us. He knew he had a friend. He knew even though I was from the inner city, I was associated with hip hop, I wasn't one of these guys who was just like, yeah, man, I'm chilling with Mike, we over in Neverland, I didn't floss. And it's not that I couldn't, because it was true. But people could look back and there's nothing on record of me going, guess what? I'm working with Michael Jackson and I did this and that. And I was never one of those people. And he knew it, and so did his team. So I really honored that, because a lot of people, after he passed away, and even while he was living, they were like suing him and making up things. Or he gave them their friendship, he gave them trust, and they turned it into, I need to get paid, Mike. And so I was never like that. And it wasn't because I was rich, just because I have a lot of heart. Where we come from, we don't sell our friends short. You know, I have friends that have lots of money, but guess what? You're not gonna know where their address is, and you're not gonna know where or when they move. Not from me, because I have respect for them. You know what I'm saying? And if they got $10,000 on that table and they own a business, if I'm in the house, guess what? When they come back, that's gonna still be there, because my mom and dad raised me like that. But I can't vouch for the other guy, but my mother and father raised me a certain way. So I think that Michael understood that, and his family, like, this guy's like cool. He's not like giving our phone numbers away or something. They never had anything negative to say about him. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, I was in the streets, and yeah, but I was never Mr. 411, you know, or the latest. You know, I have a lot of celebrity friends, and I kept their interest. So when I go back and I relive those memories with Mr. Jackson, it was really cool because, I mean, this guy was like really, he was just like really just a cool, down to earth, troubled man from this standpoint. His work was what he focused on, but then after the work, all these other problems took him out of his artistry. And I had to slowly watch him just be drained and taken away from his work. Like most people, if you got a day job and you go to work and you punch in the clock, but you got a major lawsuit that you're facing foreclosure and bankruptcy, and somebody's actually going to put you on the news because they say you have an illegitimate child from somebody from Uganda. Not that Uganda's bad, but I'm just using it as a word. The thing is, you know what I'm saying. If these things are before you and you're trying to have a face that you carry for your day job, it's not going to work. So I had to see Michael Jackson go from being that lovable, fun person to just kind of like going through life numb and everybody knowing all of his business. That man, that creep, that thing, that species, that it. You know, in Europe, they call them Wacko Jacko. And then over here, you know, he's that guy, that weirdo, you know. Ooh, can you imagine? It's like you're looking at somebody that was your friend for years and people are just ripping him apart. Kind of sucks, huh? I had to go through that, you know, and it was sad. You know, I couldn't even sit through This Is It. When I seen This Is It, I was like, oh, man. Because here's a guy that, I mean, when he came out, he had lightning, you know. It's like when he danced, bam! I mean, if he could put him into an outlet, he'd like power the city. But in This Is It, he didn't even have any snap. He was real lifeless. He's just kind of, whatever. He just wasn't there. It was almost like society and life had dimmed his fire. You know, that thing that made him lightning. You seen him more just kind of lethargic, kind of like, oh, well, when is this over? Because this is not fun anymore. And that's not cool, you know. And so I do go back at those memories of when it was fun, because now they're even more important, because that's what we have. You know, people have his music. People could still harp on that negative stuff. But you know what? Once somebody's dead, their sins are erased. What's done is done. So I concentrate on the joy, and I love seeing the young people who are dancing, and Bruno Mars, all the people who have their music, even Prince. You know, I had a couple of special moments with Prince. While I was on Lionel Richie's tour, he was dating Sheila E. Sheila E. was a percussionist. So one day, 1983, we're backstage, and this little guy comes walking with these women's heels. You can hear, and he has this big white guy. It looks like a biker on steroids. He's just, as his bodyguard, he walks up to me and my friend, and he's looking at us, and we're waiting to go on stage. We're like kind of dressed up in costume, and he's looking at us, and I told my friend Bruno, I go, that's the guy who was breakdancing in the Little Red Corvette video. Prince goes, excuse me, I don't breakdance for anybody. That was not me. And he walked away, and I was like, did we just get checked by Prince? I'm like, yeah. He wanted to make sure, he knew we were the dancers, but he was way above us. It wasn't him breakdancing. He did his thing, but he didn't call it breakdancing. So he kind of checked us. I was like, ugh. Then later on, We did I Feel For You with Shaka Khan. The music video, he wrote I Feel For You for Shaka Khan. No, it's very true. Once that won a Grammy for Shaka Khan, now the little guy that was on tour with Lionel Richie is in music videos selling his stuff. So now I have more merit with him. So then when he had his club in Glam Slam, 3rd and Boylston in LA, now I have VIP status there. Man, when Prince had his club in downtown LA, just to get in, it was just like a celebrity who's who. I mean, you'd be like, damn, there goes Heavy D. Damn, there's Eddie Murphy. Damn, there goes My Tay. Damn, there's Carmen and Electra. Damn, there's Boogaloo Shrimp. Yeah, that's me. Hi. And the thing is, we all felt like stars there, you know, and I remember his ex-wife, My Tay, she came up to me one day, I was dancing, and we were just going at it, and she's standing there, she goes, come here. What? She goes, the artist, that's when he changed his name to the artist. She goes, the artist is very, very, very pleased with your dancing. I go, where is he? She goes, it's up there, because he used to be in a DJ booth. He used to go and play his music to see if it would work for his own club. And then he would do shows there. So he seen me dancing. So now I was feeling like really like, okay, we have this bond. I'm talking to his wife, and I'm talking to Carmen Electra and all his people, Sheila and Wendy and Lisa. So it was like nice to be in that circle. You know, I mean, from Michael Jackson to Prince, it don't get much better than that, right? Sheila to this day, she's still like my play auntie, because we all, you know, I just seen her sister, Zena. We all in our own way have our own memories of Prince, of how he was the untouchable, arrogant one, to when, just before he passed away, when he was more humble and he was coming out in public and doing interviews that he never did. You know, it was really interesting to see his transformation too. Michael Jackson told me something very interesting. I don't know if a lot of people know this, but when we were doing Bart Simpson during the rehearsal, Michael goes, you want to hear something about Prince? I go, yes. He goes, well, when we did We Are the World, we asked every artist of the 80s, please come, me and Quincy Jones, come and do something for this song for charity for Africa. We asked Prince, and he went, no, Prince didn't want to do it. So then he was like, okay, I got another project for you. He asked Prince to do the song Bad with him. Him and Prince were supposed to do Bad. Prince said, oh, heck no, I'm not going to do it. And Michael said, do you know why he didn't want to do it? He said that he didn't want to sing Your Butt Is Mine. See, because they thought that him and Michael were gay anyways. So everybody was homophobic back then. So they were like, oh no, you know, your butt is mine. Something must be going on with you and Michael. So he used that to bow out. And you know what? Years later, he felt bad because Michael turned Bad into a hit. And you know what? Nobody even made anything of that lyric. When Michael puts that song, your butt is mine, gonna take it. It just kind of just goes, whoosh, because the video was so much bigger than the word, you know. So I just thought it was really cool because he told me that before it broke on the news. So I was getting it straight for MJ, you know. I was like, ugh. But see, once again, I didn't run with it. I could have said something, and it could have been justified. But you know what? It was just like what happens there stays there. As far as keeping the secrecy of something that it was shared privilege. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that was privileged knowledge, industry knowledge. But yeah, between Michael and Prince, those were like the two wonderful experiences that I carry. And it helped me. I've been a musician and a singer and songwriter for quite some time. It didn't just wake up and say, okay, I'm not going to pop or do the robot or breakdance. I'm going to sing. I don't think so. Everything that I've gone through made me transition to who I am. So those 9 months on the world tour with Lionel Richie, I learned music theory and chord. I learned so much without even just being hands-on in the studio. Then being around Michael, not just teaching him dance, but while I was teaching him dance, I'm like, well, let me do some research on the person I'm teaching. So I had a lot of time to just listen to his music, especially songs that he wrote. And I took vocal lessons and blah, blah, blah. So I started doing my songwriting. I've been songwriting since like 1984. That's a long time to actually practice. So I got a little bit good. So eventually, I want to put some stuff out. Not really. I mean, whatever happens, happens. If it hits the charts, fine. If not, I could totally see me as doing what I would like to do is maybe do some sort of cool review at a casino, like in Vegas or at Harrah's, where maybe I could sing my medleys of stuff that I know that I grew up with, that people love, and do like a lounge show or something with dancers and the whole thing. Almost like Cher and Bette Midler, you know, how they do those shows. You know, I have a concept that I'd like to run by people who do those live shows, where I could put some of what I'm discussing into a live show, but with music, you know?
Still good. Okay. Did you have any interaction with Marlon Jackson?
Yes. Okay, well, here he is. So, while we were doing the Victory Tour, we were on a soundstage right there at Hollywood Center Studios off of Santa Monica and Las Palmas. And I was working with Michael, but Marlon and Michael Jackson have always had this competition to outdance each other. It's been a sibling rivalry since years. So Marlon already seen what Michael did with Motown 25. They were all supposed to get together and they performed at Motown 25 as the Jacksons. But Michael said, but I need a solo. So then after they came out as the Jacksons doing their medley on Motown 25, Michael came out by himself and did Billie Jean and rocked the world. So I'm sure Marlon was like, what does he know that I don't? So when Marlon found out I was working with him, I was at a club on Melrose, right down the street near Paramount Studios on Melrose. And here I am dancing, and Marlon Jackson's bouncer comes in the club and says, come here. We got somebody very important that wants to talk to you, one of the Jacksons. I'm like, I thought it was Michael. So I came out of the club, and Marlon's all, hey, it's me. He's inside the car. I'm like, what? He goes, hey, man, you know, we got the show coming up at Dodger Stadium, the Victory Tour. He goes, do you think we could practice, man? You think you can show me some stuff? I go, are you serious? He goes, yes, I am. He was so desperate. He took me from Melrose. He goes, where are we going to go? I go, we can go to my house. Because I knew my mom and everybody was there, and I had a living room where we practiced, just like they had. So they practiced at their mom's house, we practiced at my mom's house. But we had those old funky tile mirrors in our living room, you know, nice floor and the boombox going, oh yeah. So Marlon's like, let's do it. So him and his bouncer took me to the house. I said, Mom, you know what? I can't really tell you. I go, but there's somebody in the car that's like really mega famous, but we got to practice. She's all, bring him in. I didn't even give her a heads up. His bouncer comes in, he checks the house. He had to clear the house, make sure, he said, no cameras, well, just do your thing. Sure enough, he comes out of the car, but he had one of those really shiny Jackson jackets. So it was like high bling, like, they were like rock gods, right? He comes out, he had like a serious rhinestone jacket, right? Leather jacket. He comes in the house. My sister's getting ready to go to the bathroom. She looks in the hall and goes, she runs. My mom's in the kitchen, and that's the first time I ever see my mom animated. Stop animated. She just, like, Mom. Huh? Mom. She's like, she reminded me of Mini-Me. I'm like, Mom. She's just looking at Marlon, and everybody just kind of stopped. It looked like mannequins in my house. So I go, Mom, it's okay. He's all, it's okay. Marlon, I go, can you say it? He goes, you guys know who I am. It's all right. Just, we're going to do our thing. Everybody just kind of like, because that was it. Marlon Jackson was at the height of his game. And then they just finished Motown 25. Then they were getting ready for the Victory Tour. So he was like mega famous. In my town, in my house, in my living room. He's staring at my mom and my sister, and then we're shocked. Everybody was just became mannequins. I'm like this. That was so awesome because we started practicing, but it was a little bit too much for Marlon. So we did a few things, but he had to get out of Dodge before anybody got on the phone because his safety was compromised. Meaning, if somebody had got on the phone, it would have been pandemonium. The Jacksons were phenomenal back then. And then he was in Wilmington in my living room. So he's like, okay. So he just kind of like, we had a session and then he took off. Next thing I know, when they invited me to the Dodger Stadium at the Victory Tour, you know, I'm there and I'm watching, I'm waiting for Michael, and Michael killed it. When he did Billie Jean, but he did our version, ooh. When he did that solo, it was over. Because they're like, now he did the circular moonwalk, right? Well, Marlon was like, okay, I'm going to get you. Marlon got a solo record and I think he has a video called Baby Tonight. Well, the stuff that I was teaching Marlon was the stuff that I taught Michael, but Michael learned it later. But in the video, you'll see Marlon like snapping his chest like Michael did in Bad. Baby Tonight. He's like, boom. I mean, he's really hitting. He's hitting, but it was his interpretation of my pop. But he was like, you know how Michael just kind of like snapped his whole body and lightning came out? Well, Marlon learned that before Michael did. So it was still this battle, but evidently his solo career didn't take off like he wanted it to. So Michael went on to just do all that great stuff. But I thought it was really cool. The only person that had the first interview of that merger where I met Marlon and I was teaching Michael that thought it was cool was a lady named Cynthia Horner. Cynthia Horner used to be the writer for Ride On Magazine. It was a magazine back then. So Cynthia said, no, I'm breaking this story. So somewhere in the archives, Cynthia has that Ride On Magazine article, and she highlighted, this is crazy, Michael Jackson and Marlon playing tug of war over Boogaloo Shrimp Turbo. It's wild.
Dope. Okay, we're going to go one more question. Just kind of go back to summers. Did you do anything in summer camps as a kid or anything of that nature?
No. You know what?
You don't have to go into that. I just didn't know if there's anything special about with the dancing. But okay, let's talk just a little bit more for one of the last questions on what you did. What kind of contests would you go to, and what clubs were hot at the time? Like, kind of go through that.
The clubs,
maybe some of the bigger names. Type thing.
The places that were the hot spots to be at. And I think where I got my respect from West Coast hip hop innovators, Egyptian Lover, Dre, Snoop, is because we had a thing called Uncle Jam's Army. Greg Mack was on the radio. Greg Mack, Egyptian Lover, a lot of the early KJLH people, 1580 KD, they would go to Uncle Jam's Army dances. And the funksters would scratch and spin, Egyptian would spin, and dancers would be ciphering back then. That was like our place. And just by being there and being able to drop that name, it resonates in West Coast hip hop. This was happening in LA, but then in East LA, they had this really beautiful thing. There was a place called Quiet Canyon. There was a place called Florentine Gardens in Hollywood. Florentine Gardens was this gigantic this gigantic building that had a mega dance floor, and it was like hundreds of people just dancing and wonderful music, and it was an underage club. So the people who were over 21 were on one side, of course, by the bar, but we just were high on caffeine and licorice and candy, and we were just getting our groove on, and we used to dance for hours. Everybody back then just danced and worked out their styles, and we would network. One thing about Florentine Gardens, coming from the South Bay, when I got to Hollywood, I was able to build a network with my name from San Gabriel, all the subsidiary places. People came all over to Hollywood, but now we had a place to network because we were dancers. And then Westwood had Dylan's. We had a club named Dylan's in Westwood. Westwood had a new wave place called Dylan's. I used to network with the little buppies, the preppies from that whole area, Brentwood, Santa Monica. I mean, everybody up in that area would go to Dylan's, especially the college types. Pasadena, there was a place, I don't know if it was called Maryland's, but right there in Colorado in Pasadena, there was a place, there was a dance club. So now I networked with people from Monrovia and that area. So we kind of, back then, if somebody had a flyer, you just kind of followed the beat. You just kind of went to where it was. I always stayed where it was universal. I never liked underground places because, like the movie Straight Outta Compton, if you looked at some of the places, a lot of the gang members ran those clubs. So if you're from another neighborhood, you had to worry about getting out. So I didn't go to those parties that were real private. But if we got a flyer that said K-Rock, Jed the Fish, and then we had New Wave, and then you had Egyptian Lover. Now we had right there on that flyer saying the best of both worlds. I mean, going into that place and that kind of music. So we kind of knew what we were walking into. And unbeknownst to me, I realized really quickly, I just had like all these nationality of friends because they see me at a club and we exchanged numbers and we were hanging out. Now I was like this universal bro. He's a universal bro. Yes, he is.
Oh, that's right.
Stupid.
Let's talk about who'd you compete against? Any names like Bruno? Talk about.
Well, I was a smart person. I chose my battles very carefully. If I knew that there was somebody that was more advanced, why would I battle him? But I would learn with them and make a friend. So now we were exchanging styles. So if you challenge somebody, if he's better than you, you're going to lose. And eventually, everybody's going to see that you kind of lost. And there's something that happens with your ego gets crushed. But I chose my battles. If somebody was better than me, why am I going to challenge something? It's almost like if you're a Honda and there's a diesel truck, the smart guy goes around the diesel, but the stupid one tries to go straight up. It doesn't work. So it's like rock and scissors, rock and paper, junk and pull. Thing is, I saw my match and I said, you know what, why am I going to fight something? Why not join it? So that's why I became a master at my own art, because now I was learning from masters. I never challenged masters. You're not supposed to. It's just wrong. You're not supposed to. If somebody's got seniority, you don't challenge their authority, but you learn from them, then you become wise. So in dance, I put that two and two together, and my skills went up the roof because now I was seeking masters, not dancers. It makes sense, huh? So then when somebody stepped to me, they're like, whoa, I was like a grand master already. Ah! Because I had all these styles. And I had my own. So what can you do? I would take your style and use it against you and just laugh. But back then, I had that Jim Carrey laugh. Let me show you something. So yeah, it was an interesting time. There was one guy, actually two guys in my battles that really gave me a run for my skill. But what they did was they helped bring out the best in me. I went to Pomona. I was starting to go out towards that way, East LA and Pomona. And there was this guy named Daryl Stokes. He's still around. This guy, he came from up north in LA. And when everybody was doing a simple wave, this guy had this way of just really making his body like water. I mean, it's hard to explain because he's a master of it. But he had his own style of waving that he introduced to the whole game of freestyle popping. And it was a really interesting battle because he didn't have the animation to popping that I had. But what he didn't have, he compensated with what I didn't have. So it was like this, in a battle, one opponent does something and then you do something and we wait. If the audience go, you suck, then you got to come up with something else. So it's just like a call and answer. You do something, I do something. And everybody goes, yeah, you suck, or he got you. So every time I went out, he got applause, I got applause. And so I was like, okay, you know what? This song is really a cardio blast. We were dancing to a song by Parliament, Not Just Knee Deep. If you look at the numbers, that song is like, I think 4 to 5 minutes. And then they have an extended version. It's the extended version that was like a killer because I was willing to die on the dance floor to honor my name. And I'm telling you, we were going at it. We got sweaty. I got funky. It was like a 12 round fight. And I tell you, at the end, we tied. We tied with what the people said. But he came up to me and he said, you know what? You won. I go, are you serious? He goes, yeah, you won. Still to this day, he still says I won. But I say we tied. But you know what? I had to really dig within myself to come up with something more amusing than the last thing that I did. When you battle, each round is like a fight. Round 1, okay, what are you going to do? Round 2, well, you did the same thing. You're not amusing. Round 3, you suck. So the thing is, you have to really come up with some extraordinary move to top the other one. And that's a master. So I was really pushing the envelope. So Daryl Stokes was one of my first battles. Then there was a guy, very interesting. The Samoan culture, they're a festive and they're a dancing culture because they do like luau's and they do their own tribal dances. But when this group, the Blue City Strutters, they had this one guy, his name is Donald DeVoe. and DeVoe, he was featured in, he wasn't featured, but he was an extra dancer in Captain EO. When Michael Jackson did Captain EO, he had these robots, right? You know, we are here gonna change the world. Woo! Anyhow, Captain EO, Disneyland. The thing is, in that video, when he went to go save the world, he had those robots come out, and they all did that cool number. Well, one of the guys was Donald DeVoe from Carson, California. Now, we grew up in the same pretty much neighborhoods. He had his style, and I had my style. And he was Samoan, and it was just like, okay, now we got to challenge each other, because this is me up against somebody with a different style and a different culture. So one day, everybody's like, okay, this is going to be a battle. They still talk about this in certain circles. He came out, and his pop was extremely hard. It was like, bam. I mean, it was like hard as a rock. You could see the solidness in his snaps. And he could do it for a long time. Bam, 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 bam. He just had stamina, and Red Bull wasn't even invented. So I was like, wow, where's this energy coming from? It's like, you're not on Monster or Red Bull? What are you on? And he was just, I mean, he was going at it. So now I was like, okay, my answer was robotics, being really fluid and just being really creative. And I remember we danced and we round after round, and I beat him because he forced me to do something out of fatigue. I was so tired. You know when you're like really tired, you just want to lay down? So I was like, you know what? I got to move because I'm tired. But when I lay down, I'm going to turn it into a move. So we went. They're like, you got anything else? You got anything else? Yes, I do. Let me show you something. I was tired, so I did this one move where I went to the floor and I laid like I was laying down like a plank kind of thing. And I remember while I was fishing at Redondo, somebody caught an eel or something, and it was kind of doing this kind of thing. So I lay completely on my back, and I made they call it the worm. I did a worm, not the kickboard. I raised my head, I did my hands, I did a wave, but I took it through my neck, through my chest, and it went through my whole body, and I beat him. Meaning, I was fatigued, so I just wanted to just lay down. So I laid down. I said, okay, I'm just going to turn this into a move. Show must go on. Hit it. Bam! I did a wave. And people saw my body turn into a worm. I was just kind of like inching by like a caterpillar, like a worm or something reptilian. Killed it. But nobody knew I was tired. I had to do something. I was on the floor. So I beat him by improv. But I tell you, it was one of those things where now I was a contender. Now I was a master on the block because his name was known. His group was like untouchable. But when I beat him, woo, everybody was like, wow, this little guy, Michael Chambers, he beats people in East LA. He beats people in LA. He beats Samoans. He beats Filipino. He beats everybody. I was just like this hungry cat. And that's what the people from the movie Breaking, the writer, when they sat out to make a film about the lives of a dancer, they said, well, who are the guys? Who are the names? Everybody kept saying, you got to see this cat they call BOOGALOO Shrimp. He's taking people out on the dance floor. He's like a gladiator of the dance floor. You got to see him. So they went out to the clubs and they found me, and they actually were there when I beat this guy. The writer said, this was before he seen Michael Jackson years later. He said if they had filmed it, that I did a glide that looked like I was on the Ice Capades. He said, you know, like if I had the shoes that, you know, people dance on ice. He said, your feet, you were in Converse or Nikes or some sort of shoe, and you just kind of glided, and we were looking going. He goes, you just look like you were walking on air. And he goes, that's our guy. He goes, there were things I'd never even seen. We were used to people spinning on their heads, but your style is totally different. And it is. It's what I do is not breakdancing, but breakdancing is a facet of street dancing. You have locking, popping, and there's all other different styles, crumping, house, and all. But the thing is, I was a master of animation and liquid. So in mastering that, there were certain movements that were just my signature moves. And my gliding was it very signature, you know, and then I incorporated it with my animation. One thing I want to say for the record, Once I taught Michael Jackson and I realized the worldwide impact of what he was known for, he became the moonwalker. That's one step. That is one step. It sounds like NASA. Rest in peace, John Glenn. One step for mankind. We got a guy that sings and he moonwalks. And his name is Michael Joseph Jackson. One step for... Anyhow, got to say it like that, right? So official. But you know what? I didn't spend my life in the shadows of Michael Jackson. I didn't put on glasses and do his number. I just taught him to be him. And he became the moonwalker. That's just one step. It's very true. That's like if somebody showed you how to just do one kung fu kick. That's just one kung fu kick. It's not kung fu. So for me, when people would ask me to dance after he got famous, oh, you taught Michael Jackson, let me see you do the moonwalk. Yeah, I could do it, but I didn't want to do it. That's just one step. Where do you see the other things I could do? So I always did something different. Because if they wanted to see Michael Jackson, then go see Michael. Go to his show or go on his video. But you want to see me, I'll show you something different that he never did. So that's the thing that people have never got. And that used to irk me because it makes all the sense in the world, but it's so simple, but it's so far away. If it's known that I taught him, why would I do him when he's him? Because I gotta be me, right? But even when you see my style, there's things that I do that he never learned and that he never did because he never wanted to or we didn't have enough time. I think that if him and I had enough time, he probably would have been up there with the Jabberwockies and all the Step It Up guys. But only I and a handful of people would know where he left off his studies. And I could see in the Dangerous tour, that was probably when he maxed out with his lessons because he was embarking on that animation. You could see he was trying to look mechanical, but then later on, he just kind of he didn't really care about popping that much. He just became very smooth with just a few movements, and sound effects. But before, he was really dancing. He was I'm a street dancer. I could really rip it. But then after a while, he just said, okay, I'm Michael. I'm making a pop. I could just set my finger and go and do that. It's very true. Less movement and more hype. Taylor, are we done?
We're good for today.
Thanks. I'm sorry. I'm ready to go. As Wanda